the American concentration camps, and voter suppression. This is a question. There's been a thread over at Democratic Underground, one of the progressive blogs, for quite some time, asking, will you be able to forgive them? And it's basically, if Trump loses the 2020 election and just kind of goes away, and I frankly don't expect him to go away, at least not for the Fox News crowd. But in any case, if he's no longer president, and rationality returns, shall we say, and you've had friends or acquaintances or neighbors who have just gone full Trump and recognized the error of their ways, or just, I don't know, morph into normal Republicans or something like that, excuse me, will you be able to forgive them? A larger question, I think, over the short term, and I asked that question too, but I think the other question over the short term is, what does it take for Trump supporters to figure out that he's lied to them over 10,000 times, that his presidency is based on lies, that his campaigns are based on lies, that, I mean, he's just lying through his teeth. What will it take for people who are Trump supporters? Do you know anybody in your life who has woken up from the Trump fog? Should we even call it the Trump fog? The neo-Nazi fog. Do you know anybody who is, family members, coworkers, who has woken up? What did it take to wake them up? I mean, for Justin Amash, it was reading the Mueller report and realizing that this guy's a criminal. And that if he wasn't sitting in the White House, and if Richard Nixon's Department of Justice hadn't issued a memorandum suggesting that they can't indict a sitting president, which is nuts, Trump would be in jail right now. Justin Amash figured that out, and he left the Republican Party and said, okay, that's it. I'm out of here. And it's not just he's leaving the Republican Party, he's also claiming the Republican Party left him, which is something that we heard before from Jeff Flake and from Bob Corker, among others. So, number one, what's going to happen with the Epstein thing? Number two, El Salvador and Honduras right now have the highest civilian homicide rates in the world. Now, just let that sink in for a minute. You've got countries where there are wars going on, the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan. They're both involved in civil wars. You've got countries where there are wars going on. We're still occupying Afghanistan and Iraq. Libya is in a state of internal war. Syria is a terrible mess. Yemen has been just flattened, destroyed by Saudi Arabia with U.S. bombs, and they continue to murder civilians, the Saudis do in Yemen. And yet, the highest civilian homicide rates in the world are in El Salvador, where Reagan installed death squads back in the day, and Honduras, where we have supported right-wing governments for generations. There's also been a 5-year climate change-caused drought in the region, which has wiped out millions of family farms and devastated the largely agricultural-based economies of Central America. So the result of this is that the highest malnutrition rate in the world, according to the CIA, for the last year that we've got numbers, which was 2016, the highest malnutrition rate in the world is Guatemala. Now, if you're the parent of a couple of kids, just imagine if you're a parent, or if you have been a parent, if your kids are now grown, but if you've been a parent, imagine living in a country that literally has a higher civilian homicide rate than some of the most, backward and devastated countries in the world. That has a higher homicide rate, than poverty-stricken the Philippines, for example. You're living in that country, and then you get a 5-year drought, and so now you're literally seeing children whose growth is stunted, who are being damaged by malnutrition, going to sleep hungry every night. Would you consider taking your children and making a 1,000-mile trip past murderers, robbers, rapists, and thieves to get to a country where you think that you might be able to save your child's life? Would you do that? And if you would, then how can you condemn these people who are bringing their kids here now? I mean, people are literally trying to save their children from being murdered or dying of malnutrition-related diseases. And this is why, by the way, in 2014, was the first year of the drought down there that wiped out the economy and that is leading to this malnutrition. In 2014, only 1% of adults at our southern border presented themselves with children. 1%, just 5 years ago. Last year, it was 50%. Again, what would it take for you to move your child out of your home, out of your state, out of your country, to go to another country where you don't even speak the language in order to save your child? How bad would it have to get? And how do we communicate this to people? You know, and then on top of this, you got the Trump administration doing everything it can to rig the U.S. Census to undercount Latinos in the United States so that they can essentially gerrymander the whole country to the political and financial benefit of white Republicans. And meanwhile, the Trump administration, you know, Stephen Miller and these guys, they're delighting in the cruelty. They're releasing their internal reports saying, here, look at the terrible pictures. Yes, this is how evil we are. And all these white racists that make up Trump's base are going, yeah, look at what they're doing to the brown people. Isn't that great? You know, in a year and a half, we're going to have a chance to remove these Republicans from office. If we fail to, I don't think America will ever recover. Do you think it's possible, if we fail to remove the Republicans from office at the state and federal level? I mean, now the Supreme Court has said that if Republicans can seize control of the state legislature and the governorship, they can gerrymander the entire state. So it becomes like North Carolina, where with a 50-50 vote, South Carolina, where a 50-50 vote for members of Congress, you end up with 3 Democrats and 10 Republicans going to Congress.